Welcome everyone to today's session on enterprise campaign tagging, achieving data integrity and accountability. My name is Eric Fettman. I'm Director of Capabilities and Enablement at Cardinal, and I am very happy to be joined by Christine Reges, Director of Consulting Solutions at Claravine. Today we're going to be reviewing factors that make it so challenging to maintain campaign data quality. And we're going to examine the heavy cost of campaign data quality issues. Of course, where there is a problem, there's a solution. And Christine is going to walk us through meaningful strategies and processes for enforcing campaign data quality in your organization. And we'll finish by highlighting how you can make campaign data quality a competitive advantage for your organization and generate real bottom line impact. As marketers, we strive to drive value through a variety of channels and tactics. And as the marketing landscape continues to grow in complexity, so does the need to approach campaign data quality and campaign measurement with strategy and consistency. We need this strategic approach to campaign data quality and measurement because there's really no other way to know how much of our digital marketing spend is reaching the right customers and how much of it is just going down the drain. In this session, we're not just discussing campaign measurement. We're focusing specifically on our responsibility as marketers, as analysts, and as data professionals to enforce data quality in our campaigns. If you don't pay attention to campaign data quality, you do so at great cost to your organization, starting with basic inability to make data-driven marketing decisions. You won't be able to optimize your cost per acquisition or any other KPI that you may be measuring your campaigns against. You may have to waste time and money on data cleanup after your campaigns. And the marketing budget may still be determined by politics rather than by real, objective, data-driven decision-making. And overall, your campaigns stay underperforming. Now, let's consider the many reasons that reliable acquisition data, reliable campaign data, reliable media data is so important. At the bottom of the pyramid, we see campaign data quality. And first level up, we see basic channel conversion reporting. So if you're in an analytics tool like Google Analytics and Adobe Analytics, if you're doing reporting within your ad server, you need to have campaign data quality even to understand basic channel performance relative to your conversions, relative to your KPIs. But beyond that, if you want to do multi-touch attribution, data-driven attribution with modeling, if you want to do audience targeting, if you want to do A/B testing, different types of optimization, and of course we all want to be doing that, none of those more advanced techniques are possible if we don't have the foundation of campaign data quality. Honestly, there are organizations who I interact with who will want to talk about attribution, and my first question is, are you really paying attention to your campaign data quality? And if the answer is not a definitive, yes, we have a good handle on campaign data quality, my response has to be, get a handle on your campaigns first, and then we could talk about attribution. There's really no point in talking about attribution or the advanced techniques if you don't have a solid handle on your basic campaign data quality. Now, the challenges of maintaining campaign data quality are many. There are many challenges, and all of them have to do with multiplicity, many factors and many reasons within those factors. First of all, we're looking at, in many cases, running at least dozens, often hundreds, sometimes thousands of campaigns in an organization in the course of a year. And then we're looking at the challenge of many individuals, many teams within an organization who are playing a role in launching campaigns. Even if you're a one-person shop managing campaigns, campaign data quality is the challenge. But once you start introducing other people, other teams, the challenge to maintain campaign data quality gets even harder. And then when we're talking about multiple agencies who you're working with, then the difficulty in maintaining campaign data quality really becomes exponential. And then let's not forget just the multiplicity of dimensions, the dimensionality of campaign data. Even if we're just talking about basic URL parameters for managing campaigns, we're talking about multiple different dimensions at that point. But if there's a situation where you're dealing with Campaign Manager as an ad serving platform, we have the opportunity to populate many other different dimensions. That's great. That's great for rich reporting, but that also poses a challenge for maintaining campaign data quality. So what are the results of all of these challenges if we don't meet them head on? We end up with mistagged URLs, untagged URLs, inconsistency between channels, inconsistency between teams, overall lack of clarity, potentially time wasted on data cleanup, missed opportunities for insight. That's key. We can't get insight. We can't optimize if we don't have the clean data to begin with. And we maintained lopsided, wasteful budgets. Everything that we've discussed so far certainly applies to different analytics tools, including Adobe Analytics or any reporting environment for your campaigns. I myself am a Google Analytics geek, so we're going to look at some examples of typical data quality issues within the Google Analytics reporting UI. Here we are on the campaign level of reporting, and we see that there's fragmentation of campaigns, 30-day free trial, 30 days free. Those are supposed to be the same values. You're making things more difficult for yourself right out of the gate by fragmenting those values. We have deals, we have newsletter. These are too general to identify a specific campaign. We have Facebook, which belongs at the source level. It belongs one level up. We have paid social that belongs 2 levels up at the medium level. If we move on to the source level of reporting, we have Facebook FB. Again, those are supposed to be the same thing. Those values are fragmented. We have a value that belongs at the campaign level. We have social and remarketing that belong at the medium level, that belong 1 level up. And then if we go up to the medium level, we see that we have paid social with a hyphen, paid social without a hyphen. We have Twitter that belongs at the source level. We have campaigns in which medium was not set at all. We have remarketing and retargeting, which conceptually are the same thing and should be represented with the same value. And then worst case scenario, you have campaigns that are unaccounted for completely because someone forgot to use campaign tagging. You may be seeing a spike in your direct traffic or your referral traffic, but you're not going to see that campaign represented at all. Within the campaigns report itself, that means that someone who's managing that campaign is not getting any credit for that campaign. I have myself probably been in many hundreds of Google Analytics accounts at this point, and I can tell you that these types of issues that we just saw within GA, they are not the exception. They are the rule. If I go into a Google Analytics account and I see that campaign data is in pretty good shape, I'm very happy to see that, but almost always there's at least some degree of chaos, and often there is a lot of chaos. These types of issues that we see are pervasive in Google Analytics data because of the challenges of maintaining campaign governance. So what does this result in for the marketer, for the analyst who's trying to analyze, trying to run better campaigns, trying to optimize? It means more time fixing data issues, less time analyzing and optimizing, and a waste of talent. Also, probably the most insidious effect of poor campaign data quality is that budget allocations remain politicized. You keep spending on campaigns because Joe said so or because it's tradition. You're not using objective analysis. You're not taking advantage of data-driven decision-making. You're just maintaining a budget for the wrong reasons. So far-reaching impacts: lack of confidence in data decision-making, halted, frustrated channel owners not getting credit, not being able to optimize, and overall the data didn't support the business needs. You're not getting an overall picture of how your campaigns are performing and what value they're providing to the business at a high level and especially at a low level. But it's not all bad news. I'm going to turn it over to Christine, and Christine is going to walk us through solutions.
Thanks, Eric. So as Eric has kind of covered this ever-growing ecosystem of marketing technology and this digital transformation, I'm going to sort of dive into solutions that can help address these challenges, but not only for the current state, but as the evolution of digital and the growth of the digital landscape continues to expand. So within this ever-growing ecosystem of marketing tech, coupled with the constant transformation of the digital landscape, it requires both scalability and centralization in order to drive success and position your organization to truly being data-driven. Centralizing this data in a single platform enables you to standardize and enforce data governance and taxonomy across all of these various teams, point solutions, and doing it at scale. Through helping teams govern the data in a centralized environment during the point of creation, it ensures that not only is there a common data model across all of these different systems, but that all of the data and marketing tags are functioning correctly to receive the data that's ultimately delivering the right experience to the right user at the right time. So we've talked about the what, next is the how. How do we address these inevitable organizational data challenges? Essential features which address this challenge can be categorized into three critical buckets: standardization, automation, and connectivity. And we'll dive into each of those in just a moment. So when we look at standardization, the ability to standardize your data model so that you can spend less time managing or cleaning your data and more time driving optimization and insights from performance. This level of standardization is really transitioning your analytics team from being reactive to proactive, ensuring your data is clean going in so that it can therefore be acted on in real time. And also a component of standardization is just the ease of control and access to the data. So whether it be modifying the data, change data formats, it's enabling the data flow to seamlessly happen across marketing teams and systems with the assurance that you still have the governance and control of your data in that central environment. A second component within standardization, but is just as important when launching a campaign, is validation. Validating that your pages are live and have the appropriate tags firing as expected is traditionally a one and done sort of mentality. Validating a page is working and pages are tagged properly has been sort of this one and done concept, and it's done manually. But what about week 2, week 3, week 4 into a campaign when you're still putting advertising dollars into these pages, but you don't know necessarily that everything is working or firing as expected? Within each template in Claravine, you can configure a variety of different validations so that as tracking codes are being created, you're ensuring all of the expected pixels are firing. And to take it one step further, we're moving away from the sort of one and done traditional mentality of tag validation. And you can configure those validations to run daily or weekly at that set frequency to ensure that you're not spending advertising dollars in vain and that your marketing pixels are firing as expected throughout the lifetime of the campaign and no longer just at launch. And then within the second bucket, we have automation. So automating that data governance process as well as quality assurance, which again is traditionally done manually. So a governed workflow for content creation and tagging helps to ensure 100% consistency across teams, across regions, and across agencies that you might be partnering with. Governing your workflow in this centralized environment ensures that every team is following that same set standard that's configured on the back end. And the centralized management of the metadata, so whether it be tracking code metadata or content metadata, The centralization of this metadata enables full visibility into the data that's feeding into your downstream platforms and the ability to see the versioning over time and filter for any sort of invalid input values from a user and modify those values. And lastly, we have connectivity. So while having your data in a centralized environment provides visibility and transparency in that singular environment, what about the accessibility of that data? Centrally controlling the data is great, but that data needs to be available to use and visualize in external platforms. Claravine offers a variety of direct integrations as well as a custom API which you can build against to meet your individual organization's needs, providing the ability to configure FTP, S3, Azure, etc. connections enables teams to push data from Claravine to external reporting and data visualization tools. Meanwhile, our integrations with platforms like Bitly, Facebook, DoubleClick, these allow for seamless integration into marketing workflows, as well as adds in an additional layer of data enrichment to your organization's data collection process. So now we'll take a look at a little bit of what the UI looks like within Claravine and what that sort of standardization really means and what it looks like from a user or practitioner standpoint. So here we have a standard submission. You can see the standardization of values that Eric had touched on. So source, medium, campaign, term, content. Your Google Analytics UTM values, the input values that users are putting in, is locked in so that users only have specific, or they only have the ability to select from specific values that are configured on the back end. And so how is that user experience configured? When I say backend, what really are we referring to in terms of establishing that standardization and governance? Within Claravine, you have full flexibility to customize each of those individual templates and fields within your configuration. So each individual template, whether it be email, paid search, display, might have their own channel specific criteria where you can configure the details of that template to hide or include, exclude, make required certain fields and determine what appropriate values are for those fields. Again, enforcing that standardization on the back end that users then experience on the front end. And just to go over a recent case study, so one of the Fortune 100 retailers that we work with, they had over $4 billion in advertising spend, and they really lacked, their challenge was that they lacked the visibility into tracking, which it was inconsistent, it was disparate, and ultimately led to leaders not having trust in the data. So with Claravine, they leveraged the standardization component of our templates to deploy a standardized taxonomy and governance at a global scale, which ultimately resulted in leadership getting that visibility that was needed. They had a 65% increase in digital paid media tracking overall. And next, we'll touch on the integrations. So we touched on this a little bit earlier, but to take a deeper look at what that actually looks like in the platform and how clients are using it. I had mentioned that there's a variety of different integrations which we offer. So some are bi-directional, whereas others might be only inbound or only outbound. From an inbound standpoint, we do offer connections with Facebook Ads Manager, DoubleClick, Workfront, S3, Adobe, and AEM. And then from an outbound, we're actually able to write back into these various different platforms. So Facebook Ads Manager, DoubleClick, any of the BI tools, S3, Azure. And what this does is it provides that connectivity, so the seamless flow of data, but it also provides visibility and data enrichment when we're talking about specifically these advertising platforms like Facebook and DoubleClick, where they have enriched metadata that typically only lives in that siloed platform. And we'll take a look at what that looks like. Here we have an example of a template within Claravine that's leveraging the Google Campaign Manager integration. So we're pulling in all of that metadata from GCM, so down to the creative level. We have the placement name, the campaign name, the ad information, and we're making that available in our downstream analytics platforms. And what that does is it really gives teams a better sense of their holistic reporting. So they're getting the reporting from GCM in terms of performance, impressions, clicks, but that now they're able to tie that into their behavioral data and the on-site metrics that those GCM campaigns are driving. And to take it one step further, we do offer that data versioning. So let's say a placement name in GCM was updated or changed, or any of those metadata values from GCM that we're bringing in were updated, or a user went in and changed what that value was. We have data versioning. So I can see in aggregate all of my data associated with GCM and how it's changed over time. So I can pinpoint a specific cell to view the cell history, or just to look at my data set as a whole and how that's changed over time, who made specific changes, and I can revert back to previous values if needed. So when we talk about these integrations with ad platforms like GCM, we do like to mention one of our recent case studies with a Forbes Global 2000 media and communications company. They had over 1 billion in marketing spend, and they really faced the challenge of disparate data and disparate workflows. So they had multiple teams across multiple regions managing and trafficking ads. And because they were siloed teams using siloed systems, there was the inevitable inconsistency in the tracking code taxonomy and overall data governance. So they leveraged the Claravine platform for the consistency and the standardization across teams, and then also a data enrichment component. So bringing in all of that data from platforms like GCM and making it available in their reporting platforms. So the most difficult part of the campaign governance process is in the actual creation of the standardization that you want to enforce. From discovery to development and adoption, a lot of the pain points organizations face once they get to the adoption phase is a result of not taking the necessary time and steps in the initial phases of discovery. So we're going to talk through some of the critical steps that you can follow to develop a successful campaign governance methodology. There are 5 key steps organizations should take to successfully create and deploy campaign governance. The first step is to evaluate your current data collection landscape. So what data are you currently collecting? Where are there gaps? What do the input values look like? And does it meet the organization's reporting needs? The next step is to evaluate the process. This is one of the more time-consuming steps within development, but it's also one of the most critical. So meet with each individual marketing channel teams and their agencies to really get an understanding of their current workflow to executing ads. Ask questions like, what platforms are they using? Are there platform-specific taxonomy requirements? Is someone internally creating the tag, or is there a handoff point to the agency? Then take the time to understand their reporting needs, what they currently report on versus what's their ideal state. This is the component within discovery that helps to alleviate any challenges you may see further down in the process, where you might have seen pushback in adoption had you not followed these steps. When you include these teams up front, you're establishing that relationship and making them feel like active participants and see that you're seeking to understand and not seeking to dictate. Once that's completed, from the information gathered in step 1 and 2, you can start to formulate the plan. Establish the key fields that need to be collected, what the appropriate input values are, and then get the organizational sign-off on that alignment. Once you've established your taxonomy plan, that's when you can then start to build out the workflows. Using the knowledge that you gathered in meeting with each of the individual teams and agencies, you can build out these workflows catered to feedback from those conversations. And lastly, there's deployment. Run through with each individual team a training on how to create a tracking code. Use a live code as an example to get them comfortable, and then you can officially say you're in a position to go live.
Thank you, Christine. Thanks very much for that walkthrough. To bring it back to the basic value that we're trying to drive and the outcome that the commitment to process, the commitment to adhering to agreed upon taxonomy that Christine was just discussing. What's the end result of that? Well, it really just comes down to math. And one thing to note is that even modest reductions in cost per acquisition, or again, whatever your KPI metric is, can generate really significant savings. Even if we start at the very top left of the grid, if you have a $1 million campaign budget, even a 1% lowering in your CPA is $10,000 in your organization's pocket. At the other end, if you're managing a $100 million budget, and through that real commitment to campaign data quality, to the taxonomy, to the processes that Christine was talking about, to using the platform in a way that's really going to create coherence in your campaigns, even a 10% increase, a 10% decrease in your CPA, that's $10 million back into your organization's pocket. It's math, and we have to keep this in mind whenever we're talking about analytics, whenever we're talking about optimization. It comes back to numbers, and even modest gains can be very significant and very compelling. And if we're looking at the savings in terms of time savings, if you have a team that's, let's say, is running 500 campaigns over the course of a year, and they're spending 2 hours messing around after the fact, cleaning up the campaign data, if you're only talking about $50 US in that person's salary, that's $50,000 a year wasted on needless data cleanup. So what are we looking at? Christine referenced competitive advantage earlier. What it comes down to is two circles. You want to get more overlap between your marketing spend and your most likely converters. How do you do that? To a commitment, starting with a commitment to campaign data quality, data-driven decision-making, real analysis, real insight. The more you can get those two circles to overlap, the more that you are going to have a competitive advantage, because your competitors probably do not have the same focus on campaign data quality and are probably not going to be able to target most likely converters the way that you will. Why am I saying that? Because very few organizations have a great handle on campaign data quality. We're 2020 now. Most organizations still struggle with basic campaign data quality, and therefore they cannot get to this point of optimization and targeting and competitive advantage. So I'll end on that note. Really think of the basics of campaign data quality as a competitive advantage for yourself and for your organization, and look at it as a real opportunity to make a difference. On behalf of Claravine and Cardinal, thank you very much for watching this presentation. We certainly appreciate your time and your attention. And please visit the Cardinal Path booth to extend the conversation, or go to the Resource Center and download the Claravine platform summary and the case studies that Christine referenced. Thank you very much.